This week, we're going to go a little on the more adult side. Wanted to talk a bit about sex and why is it that sex is such a hard topic for us men to talk with our wives about. We're going to be doing that this week on episode 229 of The Relaxed Male. This is The Relaxed Male, a show that comes to you each week helping men to remove the nice guy from their life so they can actually live their life on their terms. Join the host, certified coach Brian Goodwin, as he helps men step out of their heads and become free from the thoughts that bind them. Hey man, hello and welcome to Relaxed Male. I'm your host Brian, and I am a certified men's coach who assists men who are just neck deep in all the different types of suffering they do with their relationships. I help men who are going through things like divorce or trying to figure out where Mrs. Right is hanging out at. When it comes to relationship, we get ourselves worked up, and that's why I'm here. I help you relax, step into your life, enjoy your life, go through the challenging parts of your life and have a good time at it. Find that fulfillment that you're craving with your wife being right there by your side. Our relationships with our wives are important. That's why I do this show, why I help men to find their wife, find that point in their relationship that allows them to lean in and become the men that they are wanting to be and that their families need them to be. And so in each week, we just step back, we look at what the different circumstances are that we face, and we talk through it, and we look at it, and we help each other to grow and become better. And this week, we're talking about sex. Oh, talk about sex, baby. Anyhow, no. let's not do that. Sex is one of those things where it is a center point to what our marriage is. Not the most up, but it is a very important for us men. We know for us men, we look at sex as a means of showing how much we love and we care for our spouse. And we like having sex because that shows our spouse actually loves and cares for us. Most men, their primary love language, if you want to call it that, is physical touch. We are just physical beings. When we see our wife naked for the first time or the millionth time, we just love seeing the boobs. We love seeing the butt. We just love seeing our wife naked. It doesn't matter whether it's been like I said, in that first year, we're still in the honeymoon period, or we're coming up on the 50th wedding anniversary. We see our wife naked. It's like, hey, we still have the same reaction every single time. Yet a lot of us step back and we look and we go, this relationship, why is our sex lacking? And that is one of the biggest problems that us men face when it comes to sex. We will sit there and ponder and think and struggle and have a hard time with just trying to understand why our wife doesn't want to have as much sex with us as we do. And proof of that that it is very, very common is go to any corner convenience store anywhere in the world, and you're going to see boner pills somewhere. One of the most popular drugs out there is Cialis and Viagra, and those things that help us we want to be able to have sex, and that because that allows for us to feel connected to our wife. So when the sex starts dropping off, when the sex starts waning, all of a sudden we're not doing it every hour on the hour. It's now once a month or even longer. And that gets distressing. And we start wondering, we start kind of trying to pay attention, figure out, it's like, okay, what's going on? Has she got another lover? I mean, something that we can fight against, because if it's just her, which 99% of the time it is just her, not blaming her, but it's just her thoughts about what it is, about the circumstances that keeps her from wanting to engage in sex. Now, it could be her thoughts about what you've done. It could also be the thoughts about what, about a comment you've made or just something else that's gone on, or something that happened with a friend, and it's caused her to reflect on other things, and it's taken her completely out of the want and desire to have sex with you. And what we often make the lack of sex mean something to us. We always make everything that happens in our world personal. We want to take it personal. We want to take the fact that our relationship has dropped a bit. We want to make that mean that she doesn't love us anymore, or that she's got somebody else, or maybe we just aren't packing enough in the wedding tackle department. There's so much that we want to assume this has got to be the problem, that we never step back and go, well, what about that is the problem? Or step back and even ask, is this really a problem? Because sometimes we get ourselves so wrapped around the axle about what we're making this mean that we start turning to stuff that actually does hinder our ability to have a very meaningful sex life with our wife. Great example of this, porn. We start turning to porn because, all of a sudden our marriage isn't, our sex life isn't as big as and great and wonderful as we thought it was. And so we decided, out of victimhood and victim mindset, we start looking at dirty movies, and we get our sexual release there. Well, all of a sudden we're not on the lookout for the little hints and clues that our wife would typically give for us, because, well, we've already satisfied, we've blown our load, we're going down the road, and we're not paying attention to our wife going, hey, she may have stretched her foot out and touched you with her foot. And if you've already spanked the monkey, you're not picking that up as, hey, you want something? Because when we first were married, all she had to do was walk past, and the air from off of her would hit our shoulder, and boing, up we were ready to rock and roll. We were following her into the bedroom. And then we go off and start getting ourselves all sedated with use of porn and turning to these, Pornhub and all those other sites like that. And next thing you know, you're sitting in the living room watching television. She's sitting in the bedroom watching her show, and there's no connection at all. Y'all are just in the midst of roommate syndrome. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that, yeah, there's kids, there's bills, there's other responsibilities, there's work, there's this, there's that, and all this other stuff that life throws at us and throws at everybody has caused us to put our sex life, yet even you had to put your sex life on the back burner. You decided not to advocate for yourself. But one of the reasons why we struggle to advocate for ourselves on this is just because how many times do you try to actually talk about sex with your wife? This is something I noticed a couple of weeks ago whenever I was driving home from out of town with the missus, and we were trying to think of stuff to talk about. And I mean, there was a couple times where I was saying, well, we could talk about sex. I think we're getting things a little spicy, and maybe pull off on the side of the road someplace and, do something we haven't done since we were in our 20s. Did I do that? No. Why? Because talking about sex is actually kind of a struggle. And why do we struggle with talking about sex? There's a lot of reasons as to why we do have a hard time, no pun intended, talking about sex. And one of the big ones is it requires us to become vulnerable. And that's scary because we take our complaints personally. I mean, if all of a sudden if she's like, well, it's because last time you were there, you gave me a Zerbert in my belly button, and I didn't like that. And you're like, oh, well, I thought she liked that. All of a sudden it's all about us. We take what she didn't like and we make it mean something to us. And so we draw away. So we take the compliment as a source of pride, but then we take all the criticisms and we want to make it mean that we're a piece of crap. And that's the farthest thing from what she's saying. She's just wanting to share with you what her thought is. But also a lot of people, when it comes to sex, we have our biases. There's some people who you talk about anal sex and it's, no. And honestly, I'm one. I don't care to do anal sex with my wife. Why? Well, I'm just not a big fan of having a poopy smelling Peter. That's, if I want to be honest, that is what it is. I just don't care to, I might pull it out one day and, one time and come to find out there's a kernel of corn sitting on the tip or something. And, it's just, there's a lot of about that. Sorry, that's an exit only. And so no. And I just have my own set of beliefs. Now, is my wife, pro anal? No, not actually. She's not a big fan of it either, which is fine. We have our similar beliefs back there, but there are times that you may have beliefs that, maybe she should be giving me a blowjob, as foreplay. That's our belief. She doesn't think she needs to. She may not even be a big fan of a blowjob. It may end up, maybe you didn't wash yourself or dab the excess urine off or get yourself worked up enough to where you have some pre-cum coming, flowing that, so there's still a little bit of a urine taste to it. That's not going to be very sexy sitting there going down on you. And all of a sudden it's like sucking on a piss straw. It's just, there's nothing fun about that. So she's going to have her thoughts about different aspects of sex. Maybe she thinks bondage is just a little too far. And when I say bondage, it's just taking a not anything hardcore like pair of handcuffs or anything, but even just like a scarf and tying the hands up above her head. Maybe that's too far. Maybe she doesn't like that. Maybe she doesn't like teasing. Maybe you think teasing is one of the funnest parts of sex and she can't stand teasing. We have our thoughts that we bring into that. And what do we make those thoughts mean? Some of us turn around and go, well, that just means she's a prude. She doesn't know how to have any type of fun. It could be. It could be also that she is going off of previous experiences where she didn't have fun. She felt very unsafe. Then we also have the problem of that we make sex mean stuff that it really doesn't need to mean. A lot of people want to say, oh, well, it's a power thing. No, not really. It's not a struggle for power. And if you're trying to have sex as a means of struggle for power with your wife, you need to double check exactly why you're married to the woman that you're married with. It's not that she is supposed to, to rule over you or you're to rule over her. It is, like I said, a sign of love and connection with your significant other. And if you're thinking that you're supposed to be this, this powerful sex god type of man, then, man, dude, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not sure where you got the idea from, but that's one of the good things about beliefs too. Yeah, we may get a little bit of we may get offended if we have some pushback on some of our beliefs, but beliefs are just thoughts that we perceive to be true. It doesn't mean they're right, doesn't mean they're wrong. It's just a thought that we perceive to be true. So you can change your belief at any time. But one of the things that it helps us to do is, and to be able to have a good understanding when it comes to sex, when it comes to that type of intimacy that we want to have with our spouse, we need to have conversations with our wife. But yet these most intimate topics that we should easily be able to talk about with our wife, we struggle the hardest. I mean, there's times, like I said, even before a couple weeks ago, there's times when, even if you decide, you know what, we're going to talk about this. How do you talk about it? It's like, you start trying to use innuendos and double entendres and try to come up with, cause you're trying to decide, should I use technical terms or should I use just normal terms or should I use dick and pussy or penis and vagina, and we get ourselves again wrapped around the axle about what are we making all this mean? If you start using a bunch of, when you take my penis and blah, 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 and you start going down that road, the reason why we struggle is because of what we're feeling, the thoughts that we have that create the feelings. So we start feeling a little bit uncomfortable, feel a little embarrassed even, but we also are afraid that if we bring these topics up, we're going to get shot down. We've been shot down without even asking for sex. We've been shot down for sex many times. So when it comes to actually asking about sex and bringing up the topic, all of a sudden, you're probably going to get shot down there also, because it's very easy to say no and to get shot down. Because again, we've been told no multiple times through our marriage. And we want to make those no's mean something too. Make them mean, hey, they don't like it. She doesn't love us anymore. She's not interested. I'm too small. I don't have a big enough dick. Whatever it is, whatever thoughts you have had, because your wife told you no, because she rejected you, because she said for the 4,000th time that she has a headache, and she's had a headache for the past 4 months, we start to judge her. And we can't have a good, honest dialogue if we're just right off the bat have the thought that she is cold or frigid or whatever term you want to use, because your questions, your answers, and your demeanor is going to reflect that. So your actions are going to cause thoughts in her, and she's going to have emotional responses to those thoughts, all thanks to your actions. So we've got all these people who have got all these thoughts, and these thoughts are creating emotions that are causing them to create these different types of actions, and people are responding to those actions. And so it becomes this big jumbled mess of emotions, actions, thoughts, motions, actions, thoughts. And what are we going to do? How do you get past it? Well, first off, you've got to just, 1, give yourself some grace. 2, give your spouse some grace, because she's going to be just as awkward about it. Even if you're dating a nurse, she's going to have bits of awkward moments when she's trying to talk about sex to her husband. And again, I know what we should or shouldn't. We shouldn't be feeling embarrassed about it. It's not a matter of whether we should or we shouldn't. We do. I get that. I'm one of those. I sit there. I love talking about sex until I'm standing there with my wife going, yeah, well, when you do that, that one thing that you do that's always kind of makes me, my toes curl when you do that. Would would you do that some more often? It's like, how far can we beat around the bush to get to the point? And a lot of the reason is because we feel shame. We've been told sex is this dirty, private thing. Not so much private or dirty, but it's a very private thing. Some of us have picked up that sex is dirty. I mean, we call porn. It's a dirty movie. So, there's that. We have our own thoughts about what sex is. Again, we make sex mean things that it's not. We make sex mean that it's a dirty act. Well, no, it's a immoral act when it's done in immoral position. There's a lot of M's in there. Position. If we're having sex outside of wedlock, our society wants us to celebrate that. But is it really something we need to celebrate? Maybe the fact that we have normalized sex, that we have actually turned around and made sex talk to be even harder to do. Now, I don't know. I've never talked to my great grandparents who were born in the 1800s. I never talked to them about sex. I don't know what they thought sex was about. How often did they talk about sex to my great grandmother, Because again, there's thoughts about that. That seems really weird. Like talk about great grandma, great grandpa getting it on. It's like, oh God, no, man, what the hey? But yet they have grandkids, or they have kids, because I'm the great grandchild. So, there's been a couple of couples that have in that line of lineage who have gotten it on. They've been bumping uglies, but there's such a element of shame that we have just picked up just from life. We know we're not supposed to watch R-rated movies. When we're growing up, we're not supposed to tell dirty jokes. They're funny, but at the same time, they're dirty jokes. This is what we usually call them, or blue jokes. And so there is an element of shame when it comes to what sex is and what sex is about. But another thing is that we just were never actually taught to advocate for ourselves. And this is a tough one for us, because how do you advocate for your own self? It's like, hey, I would like to get a blowjob on a once a week basis. Well, the answer is pretty close to that, if not that itself. If you want to have something, ask for it. And this is something that I struggle with, because thankfully I've got a wife who is very vocal. So there's been times where I've kind of been hinting or trying to let her know that I was kind of interested in having a little sexy time, and she wasn't having it. She was eventually, and this was just here actually very recently, and this is what kind of woke me up into the area of relationships, when she said, if you want me to do something, you're going to have to ask for it. Which, I mean, again, I had my thought. It's like, good God, she's treating me like I'm a damn child now. Use your words, almost type of response. And it was just like, and again, it was so hard to voice would you like to have sex? And that is the hardest question to actually ask, especially for a nice guy. Oh my God, that's a tough question. Do you want to have sex? Hey, you interested? Are you horny? And a lot of times we do. We try to throw up a little innuendos. We might even jump in there and give her a back rub in hopes that she might let us cop a little side boob feel or something. But when it comes to sex, we struggle. If we can do something without having to ask for it, it's so much easier, which is why we turn to porn so much, men. We don't have to ask the people who are on the website that we're watching porn, hey, can I watch y'all have sex? It's just, no, woman gives blowjob to dude, or whatever it is we want to look at. Whoop, hey, there it is. All right. Our deepest, horniest, fantasy just pops up right in front of us, and we get to watch it and go, oh, yeah. When we could actually take the time and talk to our wife. We want the connection. We crave that connection, that emotional and physical connection. To have that connection, you have to do the hard stuff. You have to we need to ask the questions. We got to start having those intimate discussions. We need to have the non-intimate discussions, because those non-intimate discussions are just as important as the intimate ones, the ones about sex. But if you're struggling with actually having discussions about sex, one of the big things you can actually do is start asking other questions around sex. There's several items about sex that you can actually ask. I mean, and it helps you to come to understand your spouse even better. Understand what it is about sex that interests her or doesn't interest her. Because, yeah, sadly, there are things about sex that your wife will not find interesting that you do. Maybe you want to install a swing in the bedroom. She is not interested in having a swing because she knows that the kids will show up at the wrong time. And from what I've seen, you can't just hop out of those little swings lickety split. So there's different questions you do want to ask. Like, what did you learn about sex growing up? And if you want to learn more about her life, you might even ask, how did you learn that fact? It may lead you down a kind of a dark and soulful area, or sorrowful, not soulful, but sorrowful area, but you get to come to a better understanding about your wife. What sexual act would you like to do to me? And get ready, for a lot of times your spouse may not have an answer. Oh, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. Well, if you did think about it, what would you like to do to me? What do you like for me to not do? What do you like for me to do? Is there something that I do that turns you off? What do you wish I, sexually speaking, did more of? Where exactly do you like to be touched? Where exactly do you not like to not be touched? It may seem like a weird question. You've been married for 15 years, but when do you like to have sex? Are you more of a morning sex person or a night sex person? Most of the times we might assume we know, but a lot of times those types of questions, the ones we think we know the answer, actually turn around and surprise us. What actions cause you to feel the sexiest? These are things that she can do herself, things that you can do. What was the biggest surprise you had when you first had sex? What was the biggest surprise you had when you first had sex with me? And one that is probably a really nervous to talk about and can be definitely full of a lot of shame. But if she trusts you enough, she can share it. But did you ever have an event that negatively impacted what you think of sex? And this can help you get to, maybe this is what she sees, an old wound. I'm not going to say trauma because again, I've talked about trauma many, many times, and it's not a trauma, but maybe there is something that reminds her of a very uncomfortable event. And maybe you keep, without knowing, tripping into that scenario. Maybe that's why she doesn't like to have her hands tied, because she had an ex-boyfriend who had a bondage fetish and didn't do it respectfully. A lot of times these questions can at least help get the topic of sex growing too. And that can lead to the most challenging question there is. And it's like, would you like to have sex? Hey, I'm feeling a little randy. Would you like to help me with that problem? It's like, my wife should probably go, yeah. Well, let's not do anything. Let's keep you staying randy. It's like, no, not like that. I don't even want to just stay horny. I want to alleviate some of the horniness. And it can be fun. And it can be that there's more than one way to alleviate and have intimate connection. And it doesn't always have to be with sex. Like I've said, a lot of times women don't, in all reality, women don't like just having sex. Women don't like just sex for the sake of sex, unless it's for 3 reasons. She's trying to keep a man, she's trying to find a man, or she's wanting to have kids. And then she will have sex like no one's business. She will have sex she will unleash the masculine sex energy like no one's business. And she will make sure you are tired and tuckered out. But yet, one of the interesting things is when a woman has more sex and sex more intentionally, she actually likes to have more sex voluntarily. But to be able to do that, you have to know how to talk about sex and advocate for your wants and your desires. Because without doing so, how is she supposed to know? So guys, with that, I want to say thank you very much for listening. If there is anything you heard on here that resonated with you, please share this episode out, share it with your friends, your family, coworkers that you're friends with. Don't do it with all the coworkers, because it is a topic about sex. And I would hate for you to get, a sexual harassment charge brought up to you because somebody thinks that you're trying to make an innuendo about them. And so, because again, people love to make circumstances personally, make them mean something very personal. So don't share it to everybody. Don't share it on the group mail, but share this out. Share this with your friends. The guys who got you to think is like, hey, man, he was just talking about how his wife doesn't like to have sex just last week. This would be a good topic for him to have. And send this over to him. Send it as a text message. Send it as a link on your whatever podcast app of choice. You can hit podcast, the share button, take it up and send it as a text message, or send it to them as a DM. However you want to do it. It works great. If you're looking for a better podcast app out there, there are the newpodcastapps.com. This can actually help you find a better app that uses podcasting 2.0 namespace tags. And these, besides for just being able to send boosts and stuff, which is really cool, it also allows for more interactivity like blog rolls and things like that. So there's a lot of really cool things that you can do with a better, more modern podcast app. So with those guys, if you are interested in trying to help improve your sex life a little bit. I would love to be able to help you. This is what I like. This is the reason why I do this show, is to help men have the marriage they want. And that part of the marriage means having a better sex life. How do you approach how do you approach the situation so that you can actually advocate for your desire for sex? I can help you with that. To do that, all you have to do is take the next step. You can go to the show notes on the in your app, or you can go to relaxedmale.com/coaching offer. Fill out the form. I'll send you an invite so that you can schedule a time that best suits you, so that you and me can talk and find out what the actual problem is and see if it's something that I can actually help. Because I would hate to sit out there and say, yeah, I can help you, and then come to find out that it's actually something completely different. It's not something that I could actually be able to be of any assistance to you. So guys, if you're interested in that, again, I want men to have amazing marriages. To do that, sometimes we just have to advocate for ourselves. And part of that advocating is reaching out to somebody else going, dude, could you help me? And I would be able to go, I'd be honored. Let's see how we can help each other and go from there. So guys, with that, I want to say thank you very much for listening. Y'all have a great rest of the week. And until then, bye. Sorry. Sorry, guys. I'm just taking you completely out of this story, because from the office that I'm talking at, there's a house that's behind me, and they've got a bunch of puppies. And I don't know if a puppy was chasing a bee or what, but he was snapping at something. And then I guess he either got it or the bee got, or whatever it was, got him, because boy, all of a sudden he rolled around on the floor, on the ground, and scooched and got up, and he ran his little butt all the way around the edge of the, of the yard and into the house, or into his, underneath the house is actually where they're at. And, woo, boy, yeah. And I guess scared mom or dad or whichever one it is. And they come running out, looking around. So, but anyhow, we have okay. Well, reason for closing blinds when we're having, doing podcasts. So, but anyhow, so